Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the November edition of Eureka Whiskey Club. Um, Happy to be here at the end of the month, a couple days away from Thanksgiving. Hopefully, everyone has some exciting plans to get together with some family and friends and eat and drink. You won't have to see me eat on camera tonight, but we'll be drinking a little bit. So we'll start the festivities early. But wishing everyone a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving in a couple of days. Want to start the call off with just a couple announcements, and then we'll dive into the featured pick this month. So this Saturday, we have a special release of our Old Forester single barrel pick. I don't have a bottle of that, but this is the last one we did from last year. I have a little bit left, but we will be releasing our this year's barrel pick for our Old Forester single barrel bourbon. I think it's like around 128 proof, something like that. But that will release this Saturday at 11 a.m. to 1+ year members only. So you've had to be in the club for 1 year or more to be eligible to purchase this Saturday at 11 a.m. A week from Saturday on December 7th, if we have any remaining bottles that are left unsold, then that will be opened up to any active Whiskey Club members. But really excited about that pick. We have a lot of exciting stuff in store for 2025. And again, just thank you for being a member. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests for this evening. Love to bring on Jill Keeler and Dana DeAngelis from Freeland. Before I let these ladies introduce themselves, I'm going to just talk about a couple prizes we have giveaway at the end of the night. Freeland has been very generous in providing some great prizes for the top 2 questions of the night, as we normally do. So first place tonight will get a bottle of their small batch rye whiskey. It's 100% Oregon grown product and less than 400 cases per year on that product. First place will also get a 3-pack of gin. Thank you, Dana, of their 200 mLs, and then also a 3-pack of their bourbon. So kind of just seeing everything that Freeland has to offer and also an exclusive bottle. Second place will get a limited edition Old Tom Gin aged in Uncle Nearest barrels, which sounds super delicious. They'll also get a 3-pack of the gin that Dana was holding up, and then a Freeland beanie as well. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Jill Keeler and Dana DeAngelis. Jill, you want to go first?
Sure, my pleasure. So I'll tell a little bit of the story of Freeland, how we.
Well, tell us who you are and what you do, and why you're here this evening. And Dana's in Mexico. Fun fact. So if there's some crickets in the background,
Mexico.
Oh, that's right, Jill's in Mexico. I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
And I'm drinking tequila, the sacrilege.
Oh, nice.
Yes, hello from Chocala, Mexico. I'm Jill Keeler. I'm the founder, CEO of Freeland Spirits. We've been around about 7 years. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And Dana, tell us who you are and what you do for Freeland.
My name's Dana DeAngelis. I'm the production manager here at Freeland Spirits, and I also have the privilege of blending most of our whiskeys.
Awesome.
Dana is also the soul of Freeland. That's the other title.
I love it.
I don't feel as comfortable saying that, but I'd love to hear you say it.
So, Jill, tell us a little bit about the brand. You said you started 7 years ago. I think, like we were talking about before we hopped on the call, we've had Freeland on our menu for quite a while. I think about the past 5 years on our back bar, and I tried the product and really enjoyed it. And I think we've been working on doing something with the club now for a while, and I'm glad it all finally came to fruition. But give us a little background on you and the story of the distillery and all things Freeland.
Yeah. So the story dates back to when I was a wee little lass and growing up in Texas. Freeland is named after my grandma, Freeland, Mima. She never touched a drop of booze in her life, but I fell in love with food and agriculture in her garden. Some of my favorite memories were at Mima's, and I went on to have a career in agriculture. I was in the Peace Corps in Guatemala for a couple of years, where I really fell in love with small-scale agriculture. came home, moved up to the Pacific Northwest, and ended up running a nonprofit education farm in Portland called Zanger Farm, where about 10,000 kids go every year to learn where good food comes from, which may not seem like the most obvious segue into making booze. But while I was running that farm, I got to know my very good friend, Corey Carmen. She raises grass-fed beef out in Eastern Oregon. And Corey and I became whiskey drinking buddies. And a fateful whiskey drinking night, must have been about 10 years ago, Corey and I were drinking some very delicious bourbon, but thinking about how we wish we knew more of the terroir. Who grew the grain? What's the farmer's story? What kinds of grain? Where do they come from? More of that terroir story. And another whiskey goes by, and Corey's like, "I'll grow it if you make it." And that was the birth of Freeland. And when I got really excited about highlighting women, all the way from the gals growing the grain for our rye whiskey to the gals growing the botanicals for our gin, all the way to the women working behind the still and bottling up our bourbon. So here we are today, and it's been quite the journey. Molly Troop, our master distiller. So after I had my fateful night of drinking with Corey, I knew it was going to take us a really long time to get to our own whiskey. So I really wanted to start out with making a gin, and I knew I really wanted the best female master distiller in the world at the time. So there were only a handful in the whole world. One just so happened to be out in Bend, Oregon. Molly got her master's. She studied chemistry in college and then got her master's in distilling at Heriot-Watt in Scotland, and then came back to the States and was running production at a small distillery in Bend. And I heard of this mythical woman and went out to Bend and threw over my shoulder and drug her to Portland, and we started making Freeland gin. And I believe all of you have a sample of that. So that's the flagship gin. So Molly and I started working on iteration after iteration. We had this tiny little 1 gallon test still that we were doing. It was single botanicals, one after the other. We must have tested over 50 different botanicals, and it still wasn't quite right. And I was like, what I really want is to use fresh ingredients. I want this gin to be like my childhood in my grandma's garden plus booze. So Molly, with her background in chemistry, knew of a tool called the Rotovap, which is a tool of vacuum distillation. So you can essentially distill at about room temperature because of the vacuum pressure. It's almost like a process used in the essential oil industry. It's pretty potent. It's really condensed. It gets an insane amount of flavor. So there are some gals just up the road from the distillery growing cucumber, mint, rosemary, thyme, and we also do honey on this Rotovap. And meanwhile, 14 other botanicals are done through traditional heat distillation on our beautiful 500-gallon copper pot still, who we call the Hell Bitch. And Hell Bitch's name came from, I'm from Texas, like I said. I don't know if anybody's ever read Lonesome Dove, the old Western. But when I finally got the still put in place, I sent a picture to my brothers in Texas, what should her name be? And the oldest was Hell Bitch, because that was the horse from Lonesome Dove who could not be tamed. And Molly was like, oh, no, I will tame her. I'm like, exactly. You're like the one cowboy that could tame the Hell Bitch. So her name has stuck. But I'll just say, so there's these 5 botanicals that are done through vacuum distillation, another 14 that are done on Hell Bitch, and we're one of only 2 distilleries in the world that we know of that combine those 2 distillation processes to make Freeland gin. So super unique, lots of flavor. I feel like you get a lot on the nose from what's done on the Rotovap. So a lot of that freshness, the cucumber, but I'll allow people to taste and see what they taste and what comes through. Some of what's on the Hell Bitch will be a whole lot of different citrus notes. There's lemongrass, lemon verbena, and then there's also some pink peppercorn, which I think kind of plays nicely with that honey that's done on the Rotovap. So it's a really beautiful gin. It's, you can sip it on its own with a little bit of lime. My favorite is a gimlet with that gin because there's so much citrus in it. Just adding fresh lime and some simple syrup is beautiful.
So when you started the distillery, was gin just like a lot of distilleries? Was the vision always to make whiskey, or or was gin kind of just like a placeholder to get things started? Like, because you hear a lot of distilleries,
sure.
Obviously, rather than sourcing whiskey from MGP or other places, it's not a very smart business model to invest all this money into something and then have to wait, 2, 3, 4 years for the product to be ready. So was gin a placeholder that kind of took off, or was it always that was the plan, to make gin first and then eventually we'll make whiskey?
Yeah, I would say from both Molly and I, our first love was whiskey. That's what we really started off with wanting to do. But as she had more experience than I did in all of these things. I didn't come from the industry whatsoever, but she had made gin before. But as we started making, I just was like, there's an infinite number of things you can do with gin. The only requirement is that it has juniper in it in some amount, and the rest is just completely wide open, which I think is just so much fun. It allows people like Dana and our distilling team to have so much fun and be creative, which is amazing. And of course, there's a million, different amazing things you can do with whiskey, but that's been really fun for us with the gin. Is it's really a chance to show off like the best of Oregon. The blue bottle we like to think of as the best of our farm fields. We just released a forest gin last year, where we like to think is like the best of Oregon farm fields. So we're just a few blocks from Forest Park, which is one of the largest urban forest reserves in the world. And we're going out and foraging for chanterelle mushrooms and salal berries and nettles and Douglas fir tips and elderflower. And that's all done on that rotovap again. So it's like, we're in this incredibly rich, verdant place, and we get to like bottle that up with a vacuum still, which is so cool. So we're all, I feel like gin has become, I'd be curious if you asked all the Freeland staff of which direction they lean, and be pretty evenly split. I bet we love them all.
And it's gin, and you obviously you have a lot of room to experiment with the gin, and then you make a bourbon and a rye. Are those kind of the three main spirits?
Those are the main SKUs. Yeah, we have 3 different gins, like Dana showed in that 3-pack. I mentioned the blue bottle, and then the forest gin, and then the middle one is a dry gin at Navy strength. So that's a totally different style. It's much more of the London dry, juniper forward style. So we've got all your gin styles covered. The Navy strength is the British Navy once upon knew the gin was strong enough to be an accepted form of their rations if it could light a cannon on fire. So we thought it might cure COVID. So we were making it while we're making a ton of hand sanitizer during the pandemic. It didn't cure COVID, but it's a damn good gin. Makes a really delicious martini or Negroni. So that's our 3 gins. And then, we have the bourbon, and then the same bourbon at cask strength, which you all have. And then we have a rye whiskey. So with the bourbon, it is a sourced bourbon. So when I had that fateful night of drinking whiskey with Corin, it was going to take us a really long time to get to our own rye whiskey. So called up a MGP and said, can you set aside 50 barrels of bourbon for me? Because I knew I had a long way to go. I had to find a bunch of money. I had to find a space. We had to build it out. I had to find equipment, and that process alone took at least 2 years. So they set aside 50 barrels for me, and I really wanted a high rye is my favorite. I really wanted a high rye mash bill. And so that's what it is. So it's, our bourbon is a 4-year high rye mash bill. And then we, finish it for an average of 6 months in Pinot Noir barrels to give it its own Oregon terroir. I don't know if people are familiar with Elk Cove Winery. It's one of the original wine families of Oregon. Adam Campbell is the owner there, and he'll dump his Pinot barrels that morning, load them up himself, drive them straight to Freeland. We try and fill them up with whiskey same day, so we're picking up as much of that.
Oh, so they're wet.
As possible. They're as wet as we can get them. So, and then
I think it comes through in the final product too. I mean, we'll get to the tasting in a second. I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but the Pinot comes out a lot in the whiskey. Dana, do you want to?
Sorry, I was just going to say that's our core SKUs, and then we do a lot of fun, like one limited time releases, like a cherry blossom liqueur that we've done for a couple of springs, where we're partnering with the Portland Japanese Garden, and their gardeners will lay out tarps at night and collect those cherry blossoms. Dana drives over to the garden in the morning, gathers those up, and we put them right on alcohol, and we distill this beautiful cherry blossom liqueur. So we have our
I'm gonna
core
have to hit you up
SKUs.
for a bottle of that.
It's really beautiful. So I'll let Dana jump in.
Yeah, Dana. So I mean, tell us kind of. You said you were telling me a story about doing tours at Freeland at one point during the beginning, and Jill has affectionately referred to you as the soul of Freeland, which is a big compliment. So kind of tell our members, kind of who you are day to day, what you do, and you're the head blender. So, kind of tell us about your responsibilities with Freeland.
Well, we're a small company, and when you work for a small company, you wear a lot of hats. And our production team is actually tiny. Is really full-time Freeland production team. There's 2 people, and so we do a lot. But I manage the bottling team. I do a lot of the processing. I get to do most, if not all, of the bourbon blending, and also we do rye by panel. So I have some help with that, choosing the barrels, but I get to do those things, and feel very lucky to be a part of this team. Like I didn't come to this job with much experience, if any experience at all. I was a bartender in college and really enjoyed drinking, but I was a school teacher for a really long time and hated my job. And I would go to this place. It was a brewery, winery, meadery, homebrew store, and we'd go have a pint at this place, and I just noticed how happy the people that worked there were. And that planted a seed that I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I want to find something that fills up my soul. And so they were crazy enough to let me have a shot at it. And I think it's going fairly well. At this point, I've been here more than 3 years. And so
saving one recovered teacher at a time.
We pour a lot.
Instead, we're saving one recovered teacher at a time. But Dana, I mean, her background is incredible because she has an amazing way of like giving tours and explaining to people like the complicated science of distilling in a beautiful way. We always, when we opened, we have a beautiful tasting room up front, and there's windows that look right in, and you can see Hellbitch and all of production. And the goal was really like any woman could come into our space, be alone, feel totally safe, and feel like she could ask any question she wanted to. And, Dana's that kind of person that there is no dumb question. And she does a beautiful job of representing us as the soul and telling that story really beautifully.
What better person to be able to handle a bunch of people drinking alcohol than a former teacher that probably was used to handling a bunch of unwildly children. So
indeed. I taught 8th grade. 8th grade.
Ooh, my brother's a 7th grade teacher, so I've heard the stories.
God bless them.
Yes, thank you. So Dana, kind of talk about I'm interested in the challenges that maybe you had, and was it something that you felt came naturally to you as making that transition and working your way up to the head blender, not really having previous experience in that role? Like what, obviously you're crushing it. But can you talk to me about kind of that transition and those challenges? I'm interested into hearing that.
Well, we start with amazing products like MGP. They just churn out so much whiskey. They're able to do it on such a consistent level that they make it easier than it should be. But at the same time, I really just had 2 great teachers here. Molly, I begged her for this job. I told her that I would bust my tuchus for her, and they really
you can say ass if you want.
I told her I'd bust my ass for her, and I meant it. And I'm a super hard worker. I've just got that drive to just be perfect if I can. And Molly was just so generous with her knowledge. And we also had, we called her our distiller extraordinaire. Her name is Lee Hedgeman.
She called herself the distiller extraordinaire. Let's be clear.
I call her that too. Okay. I call her that too. But they were just so generous and really took me under their wing and took time to explain things to me and really wanted me to succeed. And so I love to say that Freeland is a place that if you've got an aspiration, we've got the boost. And we've had an intern program here where we let a young woman come in and work in the facility and taught her a lot of the more scientific background parts of the job with the rotovap and the hot distillation and the fermentation process. And she's in medical school now. So we're just a team of people who are looking to support and help other people succeed. And they did that for me and really gave me the tools that I needed to be able to be successful in this job.
That's so cool. Well, again, you're crushing it. So you're a natural. The whiskey is phenomenal. My best friend lives in Portland, and it's been a couple years since I've gone and visited him up there. So next time I'm up there, I'd love to come check out the facility. And I will specifically ask that Dana shows me around, because it sounds like that's the person to do such a thing.
I'd be happy to.
Talk to me about she flies with her own wings and what that means to the city of Portland, but also Freeland. Maybe Jill, you can take that one.
So it is the Oregon state motto, which I think is really beautiful. It was, Oregon's first female governor that coined the phrase. And, we like, if you look at our bottle, it's in the, raindrop shape. So, it really celebrates the beauty of what makes our farm fields and what makes the Pacific Northwest so verdant is the rain that we like to bitch about. But so that's the shape of it. But it's also, I don't know if anybody's been to the Teardrop Lounge in Portland. It was like put cocktails on the map in Portland 20 plus years ago, and the owner was a huge help as I was getting started. So it's also a nod to the Teardrop Lounge. But the woman on the front is like holding up her stalk of grain. And I like to think of like Mima could have been anything she wanted in life, not held back by the patriarchy and just going for her dreams. And I like to think of it for any woman as like your most empowered self going for the thing you love in life. So she flies with her own wings. I think it's like that woman and all of us that's unencumbered going for whatever the hell she wants to do.
Love it. So we talked about the unique process of cold distillation versus hot distillation, and that's something that you said you guys are the only that you're the only distillery using that method. No,
so there's some that are using exclusively a cold distillation process, but there's only one other distillery that we know of that are combining the two, the vacuum distillation and traditional heat distillation.
And I had the question about the bottle on my list because I don't think I've ever seen anybody else with this bottle. This is kind of, I doubt anybody cares about this. I'm just curious. Is it hard to source this type of bottle? Like, is this made custom for you, or is this, because it's a beautiful bottle. I mean, the juice inside is phenomenal, but I think when I'm in our restaurants, people see the bottle on the back bar and they're like, oh my God, that's a unique bottle. What is that? And it's a good conversation starter. And I didn't know the reasoning behind the bottle, but Teardrop Lounge and just the rain that fuels the crops. I mean, that's phenomenal. But is this glass hard? Is it hard to get this glass and source it?
It isn't currently, but it's, during the post-COVID time of, when all kinds of supply chain stuff was happening. But yeah, it is custom. It's our own. We have a patent on it. Nobody else in the history of spirits will be able to have a teardrop shaped bottle. But it's exactly what you just said, Trevor. It's we knew what was inside it was going to be beautiful, and that's what mattered most. But we all know, a package is important. And so we wanted a beautiful package to hold a beautiful spirit. And if me or Dana can't be in a liquor store telling the story of Freeland and it's sitting on the shelf, how can she embody who we are? So that was really what we were going for with the bottle. But yeah, everything about it's really difficult. It's like there will never be a bottling machine that could handle that bottle. So, Dana manages our bottling crews, which have the time of their lives, but it's a pretty labor intensive process. But we believe it to be well worth it.
No, it's like I said, it's super unique, and I love the logo. And I'll be honest with you, when this was first presented to me, before I knew anything about Freeland, or I mean, someone came into our offices and was like, "Hey, I have this whiskey I want you to taste," and I was like, "That is a cool bottle." And the logo is great, and there's the amount of thought and care I think that goes into a brand, and obviously I can sense both of your passions for the brand, and to see it translate to the final product, not only in the liquid, but the branding, the bottle, everything. You can tell that there's a lot of, you guys think about everything, and that to me is, I recognize that and I appreciate that. So kudos to you for really taking the thought and care to put it into every aspect of the business, because I think that really is a brand differentiator. So let's get into tasting the whiskey. Jill, you're drinking tequila, I guess. So I don't know if you have the whiskey to taste. But feel free to drink.
I don't have it. I'm passing this off to Dana.
What tequila are you drinking? I mean,
if anybody wants to come down to Mexico, and I don't even know. We've been doing a tequila tasting or whatever we can find. I have no idea what's in this margarita right now. So full disclosure.
Nice. So as always, everyone got their card that has a picture of the bottle, some information on the distillery, some tasting notes on the product. This is a blend of 7 different barrels bottled at cask strength. All were finished in old, I'm sorry, it's Old Elk, right? Or Elk Grove? Elk Cove, sorry. Elk Cove, it's written here. I should have just read it. Elk Cove Pinot Noir barrels. And as Jill shared, it's same day those barrels are emptied. They go to the distillery and they get filled. It had been a minute since I tried this, because when we were initially talking about the project, 4 or 5, 6 months ago or something like that, you sent me a bunch of samples and a bunch of different wine finishes, but I really kept gravitating towards the Elk Cove, because I took a sip. I cracked my bottle earlier today, as I normally do. I try to have a little dram before the call just to familiarize myself with it. And the cherry note on it was so, on that fresh crack, like I literally, and I could taste the tannins too, from the wine. And I kind of like took a sip, and I was like, I kind of just it tasted like I drank, like maybe drank a little Pinot Noir, which I thought was really, really nice. So I don't know if you have anything additional to share about these specific barrels, or if you remember, but as always, the comment section, if you're joining us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, throw your tasting notes into the comment section. On the nose, I get a ton of vanilla. On the palate, I get a lot of cherry. I get some allspice, some nutmeg. My wife's cooking in the other room, so it's coming in a little bit. But blackberry cobbler is one of the notes I had. So, Jill, Dana, any additional things to add about this bourbon? And I mean, it pops out of the glass for me. It really does.
Well, I really was very intentional with this blend when we were first tasked with making this for your wine or your whiskey club. I just really wanted to give you something very special. And so our bourbon usually aged 4 years, if not longer. The barrels that I chose for this particular blend were among the oldest that we have. And so it is 2017 and 2019. More 2019 than 2017, though, because the longer it's, the older it is, the less, the fruit is a little less bright, if that makes any sense. But I did want some of those 17s also to kind of round out and give it a really nice full body flavor. You probably know that Pinot Noir goes through malolactic fermentation, and that is changing the malic acid that is present in the grape into lactic acid, which has just a creamy, nice mouthfeel and a full-bodied texture. And even though we're not really converting any malic acid in the bourbon into lactic, that bacteria is still there present in the wood, and there is malic acid left into the wood itself. And that really changes the texture of the bourbon. It gives it a beautiful garnet color. I love bottling the cast strength things because once you see all those naked bottles sitting on the table next to each other, they just glow like garnets, and it's really beautiful. And so this is all Pinot rested. Usually for most of the cast strengths that I do, unless they're private barrels and the regular bourbon, there is also a portion of just the regular MGP bourbon that is mixed into the blend, but your blend is all Pinot rested and among the oldest barrels that I still had. And so I'm so happy that you're excited about it and that you like the flavor. I think it's the best thing I've ever made.
Oh my God.
I do. I really do. I was just in.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And again, it had been a minute when you, and full disclosure, when you guys sent me samples, I just tasted the individual barrels by themselves, but I really did enjoy the Elk Cove ones. And the first time I tasted the final product was, again, actually earlier today. And I loved the individual samples, but this micro blend is great. So I think you crushed it. And if any of your former students are old enough to drink it, I mean, maybe.
They are. And I'm originally from the Atlanta area, and we do have distribution in Georgia. So don't think that I'm not on Facebook telling my former students to go support Ms. D in her new endeavors.
I love it.
That's the cool thing about doing a blend, though. A lot of the time we'll do a private barrel that's just one single barrel. And so you kind of get whatever that barrel has imparted into the bourbon. But when you get to do a blend, I can choose one because it's fruitier or that cherry is just really bursting in that particular barrel. And I can choose one that's smoother and has that nice creamy sort of mid-palate mouthfeel. And you kind of get to put together the best of what you have into something that's greater than the sum of its parts.
I mean, I love single barrel picks. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of single barrels, but I think it's like any recipe, right? It's any food recipe. I mean, you can have an amazing piece of protein, or you can have an amazing vegetable, but it's really combining all these flavors together that makes something really true and unique. And I love doing micro blends. We're doing a micro blend next month with a different distillery with Frey Ranch. And I just think it's more of a composition and less of individual ingredients. And not to say that single barrels, I love single barrels, and I think there's a lot of great single barrels, but I think you being an artist and being able to really take notes from here and combine them all together it's a beautiful thing. And I think you did a phenomenal job, and I couldn't be happier with the product. And it's like cherry pie in a glass.
And something else I think that's pretty neat as a women-run team is women have more olfactory cells, more taste buds, and it's like women not having been on the production floor for so many years. It's like there's this palate that's almost missing from our whiskeys. So what Dana can bring from blending something and what she can smell and how she can blend something is totally different than somebody else. So I think it's a really cool part of the science of it, of what makes us unique.
I have my wife taste every single cocktail I make before it goes on any menu in our restaurants. I'm always because I do a lot of R&D from my house, and she's a graphic designer, so it'll be like 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I'll be like, hey, I taste these 3 drinks. Tell me which one you like the best. And she's like, Trevor, I'm working right now, but okay, I'll do that for you. But yeah, super happy with the product, and I hope our members enjoy it. I can't know how they wouldn't, and hopefully the gin is bright. I mean, I see what you're saying with the gimlet. I mean, I would even make just like a martini with it. I think it would. So the mint to me is like it's bright. Like I know people use that word a lot with gin, but and that's kind of generic. But I really do feel like it's very bright, which I enjoy. Let's get into a couple more questions, and then we're going to talk about some song choices. Jill has more tequila to drink, so we gotta get her going. But so we talked about Elk Cove a little bit. How long did you say that the whiskey's finished in? 6 months?
This particular blend was actually in the finishing barrels for more than a year.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like I really delved into like the stores of what we still have in finishing barrels, and tried to give you the best of what we still have. And so this went into a finishing barrel May of 2023, and I blended this at the beginning of October, I believe. Yes. And so more than a year in the finishing barrel. And then it was in the original whiskey barrel for what, 4 to 3 to 5 years, I guess. Yes.
Awesome. So being amazing, female leaders in the distilling world, I'm going to use a Portland pun here, trailblazers. But what advice would you give to younger women? Oh, hey, hi, how are you? Do you know that woman?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, she can come help answer the question too if she wants.
She'd be great at it, actually.
What advice would you give to women looking to get into the distilling industry, or you maybe potentially opening up a distillery?
Do you want to talk about it from the production side, Dana?
I would say find your people, and persistence is always a good thing. I knew when I was interviewing for Freeland that it was going to be a safe space for a woman to cut her teeth and to learn, because it is mostly women in our company. And I don't think that we always thought we had the options that we actually have. And I think just being visible and being out there and being like, yeah, you can do this too, is hugely important, because if you don't see something, you don't know it's possible. And I just feel like that's one of the biggest things we bring to the table, is not only are we doing this, we're doing it pretty well. And so don't let anybody tell you that you can't do a thing. I don't know about you, Jill, but I grew up with mostly the men in my life telling me that I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. And, look at me now. I'm living a life that I didn't even realize was possible when I was living in Georgia and teaching. But it just took the courage to put yourself out there and to try. And, she flies with her own wings means something very special to me, because it just takes courage.
Yeah.
And don't take no for an answer.
And I would say, when talking about like women launching brands, the first thing I say is run like hell, don't do it. But there's if only do it if you can't help yourself, if it's like the thing you wake up thinking about every day, because it's a very ridiculous industry to enter, but you have to come at it, it has to be like a total project of love, and this beautiful thing that you're creating and the team that you're building it with is what really keeps you going.
We pour so much love and passion into what we do. Our tiny production team of 2 grows to about 10 on days that we bottle, and those people are some of my best friends. Like, it's a joyous experience, sort of living the life that you've wanted for yourself, and just do it.
Well, both of you are such a huge inspiration, and just regardless of being a women-run organization, I think the product you're putting out is phenomenal, and what you're doing and setting the example for in the industry is awesome. So I'm a big fan, and I'm hoping we've converted a lot of our members into fans of not only your gin but your whiskey. Apologize for going off camera there for a second. My 3-year-old snuck in, and I had to politely escort him out.
We'll take a cameo appearance.
Yeah, he's made appearances before, but but yes, thank you so much for your time this evening, and I want to get into some song choices that we've chosen for our playlist, and then we'll jump over to our questions from the audience. We got a lot of great questions to get to. Let's talk about, we always ask our guests to select some songs that they feel represents the distillery or the whiskey, or just what they're feeling at the moment, what they're liking. So Dana, you want to go first, and then Jill, you can choose your song, and then I'll choose mine. And we'll add these to our playlist for our members to listen to as they sip on some amazing whiskey.
Well, our excellent marketing director outed me as a fish fan on my bio. And so I thought I would just lean into that. I've been a fish fan for longer than I care to admit to you. And they've taken me all over the country. I have met just amazing, beautiful people I've pretty much been to almost every state in the lower 48, seeing that band. And the particular song that I chose is kind of the girl tune for Fish. It's called Bouncing Around the Room. But I'm telling you, countless times I have been crying tears of joy as soon as I hear this really iconic drum beat that leads into this really beautiful, joyous song that's kind of about being a girl and doing the things, in my mind anyway. So here's some Fish.
Jill, you want to tell us about your song choice?
Of course, I went with Beyonce. Girls Run the World. Because enough said, right? That's what we're all about. And it's Beyonce, so the queen of all queens, who also just launched her own whiskey brand, which is pretty badass. So, she's in our club. I'm sure she talks about us all the time. Yep.
I got a bottle right here.
That's
Sir
so pretty.
Davis.
Awesome.
Not planned, by the way. Did not have that planted. My song choice is going to be. I chose Bing Crosby. I've got plenty to be thankful for, leading into the Thanksgiving holiday, and just reminding us all. Life can be hard sometimes, but at the end of the day, we all have things to be thankful for, and good company and good whiskey is two things that I'm thankful for. So I appreciate your time tonight and sharing your beautiful spirits with us, and letting us learn a little more about Freeland.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah. Jill, I don't know if you have any tequila you can, there's your margarita. All right, perfect. Let's get into some questions from our members. I'm going to be leaning down here just as I sort through it. This is a good question for Dana. Rich Martinez asks, were there any challenges you encountered when working with Pinot Noir barrels, and how did it impact the aging process?
We just have a really excellent source. We are in the heart of the Willamette Valley, and there are over 1,000 wineries in this area at this point. Elk Cove was one of the first 10. They opened in 1974. And they are really one of the OGs. Their vineyard is a bunch of clones that they have taken and cuttings from the best plants. And so they've just grown this into an incredible winery. But I get them soaking wet. And so it's just, I have a lot of help. Like, thank you so much for your complimentary words about this blend. But MGP and Elk Cove make it relatively easy for me. I just have a lot of good material to work with. And it's hard to mess it up when your ingredients are that good. If you put in good, you get out good. And we put in pretty good. Maybe great.
I like it. I think we maybe asked this question a little bit, but I'd like to, hear maybe some more insight on it. Linda Archer asks, how involved are you in empowering women in whiskey / distilled spirits?
I feel like a lot of the time on the bottling line, it's all female identifying often, and we just give people an in. Like I said earlier, if you don't see it, you don't know it's possible. And we try to make it possible for the people who seek us out and who are interested in being part of our team. we're out there trying to support other women in other industries. Like we source our fresh botanicals from a woman-owned and operated farm that's just up the street. Any chance we can, we're not just trying to be on brand, but trying to be authentic to who we say we are and who we believe we are. Like, we're going to seek out the girls to do the things because we believe in them and we know that we can do great things. We can do hard things, and you just need somebody to give you the shot. So much of the time, when people see me, like if there's a person who's delivering something, truck drivers are often male, and they'll be like, well, who's going to unload the truck? And I'll be like, it's this one. And they often just don't even think I can, which is just absurd, because I'm a skilled forklift driver on top of all that as well. So I think
you have that on your business card.
There's
no,
so much on her business card.
It just says sold.
I love it. If it doesn't, it should.
Right. We just need to be given the opportunity because we're used to working harder. We're used to having to prove ourselves. So why wouldn't we be killer at things?
I know the industry is so lacking in diversity in general, and people, need to see examples of people that look like them who are doing that job to know that they can I could actually do that. So I think that we really find that as a really critical role we play in this industry that's still very dominated by white men.
Sarah Steepleton asks, your gin is, she makes a statement and then asks, but she says, your gin is delicious. What is your favorite mixer or cocktail to make with this gin? I think Jill somewhat answered that question earlier. You said, did you say gimlet or what was your answer? I'm sorry.
The gimlet, yeah, with this gin that you have, the original Blue Bottle gin it's gimlet all the way for me.
What about
traditional?
maybe go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm curious just what Dana would say.
I feel like it's a sipping gin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so flavorful. I do the public tour often, and I love to tell people that Freeland has ruined me for all the things that I used to love. I used to really enjoy a famous cucumber forward gin that would be my birthday splurge. And now it's kind of meh to me because the botanical flavors that we can pull out of that rotovap are really just incredible. And who thinks of sipping gin? Not usually a thing, but this one is so well balanced. The hot maceration or the hot distillation gives it like a full body and a roundness, but then the fresh botanicals that we pull from the rotovap give it a brightness that I think is unrivaled. I'm not ashamed to say that it's my favorite gin that I've ever tried, and the other production person feels the same way. Like, we're just really passionate about making something that's just special, and I think we do a pretty good job. So I'm just sipping this.
What about the other two expressions of gin? Is there a specific cocktail? I mean, you don't have to give one for each, but is there the other expressions of gin? Do you like that in a cocktail at all?
The dry gin, I think, is perfect for a martini, especially a dirty martini. We do two very special gins that really rely on the rotovap, but we also wanted to have one that said, oh, yeah, we can make a traditional gin too. Here you go. And that one is just perfect in a really dirty martini or even a pickle-tini. Mm.
I disagree. I think that's sacrilege. I only do a twist with my martinis. The dry gin is perfect for whatever your martini style is.
I'm sorry.
But then
I'm with Dana. I'm an olive juice. Like, there's not too much olive juice for me, unfortunately.
I agree.
But I can drink both. It just depends on what mood I'm in.
The one fresh botanical that we put in Hell Bitch is in the dry gin. We put a whole lot of fresh orange in there, and I just think it goes so well with that brininess of the olive. So good.
Well, you've converted me. So, let's see here. Art Riddle asks for Jill, do you have a fun or favorite meme-off story that you'd like to share?
That's amazing. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. So Mima was, very stoic woman from, Great Depression eras. Like they were farmers, grew up just, my mom is Mima's daughter. They grew up just, dirt poor, using the outhouse in the farm fields. And, but, Mima was a good Methodist woman. And I would drive her to church on Sundays, and she would just be gripping the side of the car, like terrified of her 16-year-old granddaughter driving her to church. And then after church, we would play skip bow. I don't know if anybody Southerners out there ever played skip bow, but I would play skip bow with her and all of her friends. And I got in so much trouble once because one of Mima's skip bow playing buddies said I didn't shuffle the cards well enough. So I got accused of cheating after church at skip bow with Mima. And now I make booze, so take it.
My favorite revelation that I've heard. That's right. We have on the wall in the distillery, there's an infographic that goes down the wall that helps us sort of tell the tale as we're giving the tours. And it says all good things are made from scratch. I was delighted to learn that Mima was not a good cook. I cannot tell you how much joy that brings
I had
me.
a behold or whatever. I could not stand her food. Like it was the most beautiful garden, and you would think it would be the most beautiful food, but there were just mason jars of unidentified objects just filled everywhere. And I would just be like, where's the closest McDonald's? Oh, it's a 40-mile bike ride down the road. Let's go, cousins. Regardless, I love good food now in spite of it.
Love it. So I'm trying to find some questions here going through this.
See one. Do you mind if
Go
I
ahead.
jump
Yeah,
in?
no, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to shout out to Matt Connors, girl dad.
I literally was just looking at that one. Yeah, go ahead.
I love that. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and when I was first, I was going back and forth when she was about 2 of like, am I actually going to do this thing? I'm a single mom, and was like, baby, we could end up on the street. But to me, this was all about like seeing her mom go for the thing. Like when I was finally like, am I actually going to do this? I was like, I'm going to do this for her, because someday I want her to go for her thing, and she deserved to see her mom doing that. So thank you for that, Matt. And I hope I'm sure your gals are thriving because they have a dad like you who's thinking about that. And the journey developing Freeland has, been really, really hard. And it's always hard, and the half of the time of running this business was a pandemic. It's just like what we've learned is that tomorrow is not one bit predictable. Nothing's predictable anymore. But we, turned around, started making hand sanitizer, started making cocktail kits that threw our booze through. People would pull into the parking lot and we'd load their cocktail kit in the back of their trunk and off they would go. But, there have definitely been times where I've been like, I don't know if I should have done this, because it can be like low moments can be super low. But then, again, I look at my daughter and I look at somebody like Dana, and it's like, no, we did this for these people and for this beautiful product, and we will figure it out. We'll always keep figuring it out because that's what we do. And that like scrappiness and perseverance is like the best thing I've learned and the best thing I can pass down to my kiddo.
Love it. A couple more here. Let's see. These are great questions. Trisha Parker asked, what are some upcoming projects or products that you're particularly excited about that you can share with us?
That's fun. Do you want to tell them what's coming up in January?
I can tell them about January, but I'd also like to just take a quick moment to talk about the Whiskey 3-pack. So the Whiskey 3-pack includes our regular bourbon, which is a portion Pinot rested, mostly MGP. It's the cast strength, which is going to go in whatever it comes out of the barrelette, and it's half and half Pinot rested, half MGP. But the third type that we have, because we really only have 2 bourbon SKUs, we know we wanted to have a 3-pack, and so it was kind of up in the air what this last one was going to be. And there is an incredible cidery just outside of Portland here. It's called Bauman's Cider, and it is a woman-owned and operated cidery. I think she's the 4th generation on her farm out in Jervis, and I am always selling barrels that we have used for either the finishing or for just the whiskey barrels that we get from MGP. I'm always trying to get rid of those. Like, I can't have that building up in the distillery. We are already busting at the gills anyway. And so I'm giving them out to other local breweries, cideries, whomever is searching for something to do a finish in. And she gets all of her bourbon barrels from us. And I was already super proud of that because that is an incredible cidery. If you ever have the opportunity to try a Bauman cider, please do it.
We're adding some of their to our Boise, Idaho restaurant.
It's incredible.
Coming up in the next few weeks.
We were thinking about including a wheated bourbon, which is much lighter in taste than our high rye bourbon, but it just needed something. And I got some of our bourbon barrels back from the woman who owns Bauman's and finished the wheated bourbon in her cider barrels. And I could not be happier with the way it turned out. And so it gives it just this kind of nice apple pie nose and definitely comes through on the palate as well. But the one that Jill has mentioned, we're doing a collaboration with a really big tea company here, Stephen Smith Teas, and a masala chai liqueur is in the works for January. And I feel like I've tasted it every day of my life for about 2.5, 3 months now, and I'm not tired of it yet. So it's really fantastic and super complex, and it's actually going to be proof down with tea. And it's just going to be such a cool product. And we're so excited about that.
And the only other quick thing that we haven't really talked about, like while we've mentioned we're sourcing all our bourbon, we do make our own grain to glass rye. And we released the first batch of that last year when it turned 4. And it's 100% organic Oregon grown grain. So Tom Hutton owns Camas Country Mill about an hour south of us. And he grows heritage varieties of rye. We have buckwheat in it, which is really rare in distilling, and barley. And we're really proud of it. We release it in really small batches. But to me, each of our products are an Oregon agricultural product. So to me, it's like the most value-added form of a rye crop. And, at one point I called Tom and I just feel like, I don't feel like we're making a big enough dent. Like we can't afford to make enough of this. And he's like, you're having a huge impact. He's like, you're one of our biggest customers because of the inefficiency of making whiskey, like to a pound of grain to make a loaf of bread is pretty efficient. But when you've got thousands of pounds to make a few barrels of whiskey, it actually, the inefficiency of it helps me achieve my goal of supporting Oregon agriculture.
That's awesome.
So come up to Portland, everyone, and taste all of these things.
Yes, I will be there soon. I had one last question. The Bauman's thing. This is maybe a question for offline, but do you still have any of the empty casks of this blend or no?
For the cider blend?
No. This blend, the blend that we did. Any of the empty casks?
I bottled every viable drop of it for you.
No, but do you have the empty casks?
After it was emptied.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. I do not have those casks.
No worries. I was going to say
Bauman.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, like what we've done in the past with some of these picks is we take the empty casks and we give them to breweries to age beer. We've actually just did like a hard seltzer aged in whiskey barrels a while ago. So if Bauman's has any of those casks and they'd be willing to sell us some cider that were aged in those casks, maybe we could bring this thing full circle. I think that would be kind of cool. No pressure though. I just figured I'd ask.
I will happily contact them tomorrow and ask about that. And in fact, I need some more cider barrels. So I was going to talk to her tomorrow anyway. And so I will happily try to make that happen.
Because like I said, we're adding some cider from them in our Boise, Idaho location. And I'm not sure what their distribution footprint is, but we have a restaurant in Seattle, Washington. Nothing in Oregon, I wish. But anyways, let's choose our favorite 2 questions of the evening, and I'll let you both get on your way. But it was an extreme pleasure, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And like I said, I think what you're doing is the juice is phenomenal. The passion and the story behind everything is great. And I'm hoping that we've converted some of our members to Freeland fans. I can't imagine that we didn't. But let's run through these questions really quick, and then I'll let Dana choose one and Jill choose one, and then I will have the hard job of choosing first and second place. So we have the question about challenges with working with Pinot Noir barrels and the impact of the aging process. Had the question from Linda Archer about empowering women in whiskey / distilled spirits. Had the question from Art about the favorite Mimas story. Question from Sarah Steepleton about favorite gin cocktail / mixer.
Don't forget Girl Dad.
Yeah, that's
Matt Connors.
Matt Connors. We also had the question. I'm sorry, I'm trying to recap them all. Trisha Parker asked the upcoming projects and spirits. There was Matt with the Girl Dad comment. And I think that's it. I don't know if I missed any, but I think those were all the questions. I mean, there were a lot of questions. Those are the ones we were able to get to. Thank you, as always, for all our loyal members for, tuning in and asking. Jill, I'll let you pick your favorite question, and then Dana, you can pick yours.
I'm tempted to go with Art, but I think Art was cheating because he knew that was going to be my favorite question. I mean, is this a thing you do every time? Pick your favorite question, so people are like trying to win.
Well, this is the thing we do. Yes, this is something we do every.
All right,
every
I'll
call.
go ahead. Art is the winner.
Well, Art's your favorite pick, but Dana gets to pick one too.
I've got to go with the empowering women question. One of my favorite things that has ever happened to me here, we had another intern, not the one who's going to be a doctor, but another intern who actually has gone on to Few Spirits in the Chicago, just outside of Chicago area. And she tearfully told me one day that she was doing this and living her dream because she saw Molly and I doing this and living our dreams. And it was a super, super special moment for me. Just to be an example and to be out there and saying, I had the courage to quit my career, sell my house, move across the country, and start a completely new career at my age. Fairly courageous, if I do say so myself. And I just hope that we can be like a inspiration for people who are not sure of themselves and not sure if they could do it and not sure if they're going to try. Just try. It's so worth it.
Well, again, thank you very much for your time this evening. And I'm going to give first place to Archer for the question about inspiring women in the distilling industry. And then we'll give Art the second place of the question about Mima. But Dana, Jill, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And I look forward to next time I'm in Portland. I don't know when that will be, but again, one of my best friends lives there, so I'm hoping it'll be soon. I'd love to, I'll send you an email and hopefully we can get together and you can show me around the distillery. I'd love to see it firsthand. So keep up the great work. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said, please do. You're welcome anytime.
Awesome. Well, Jill, have fun in Mexico. Dana, have a great rest of your night. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope everyone has
Thanksgiving.
a great time with friends and family. And thank you very much. Cheers. Have a good night.
Cheers.